her short biography because she has an extensive professional background. Well, Jennifer Montgomery is a Rotary Peace Fellow and a global human rights advocate with over 20 years of experience in advocacy, program management, public administration, and strategic communication. She spent a decade as the Director of Human Trafficking and Education and Outreach for the Kansas Attorney General's Office and was a subject matter expert on human trafficking and gender-based violence with the Attorney General Alliance Africa Partnership for Justice. She was recently selected for the prestigious Mukwege Foundation roster of the specialists and trainers supporting survivor-centered and holistic programs which aim to change the collective response to conflict-related sexual violence globally. In 2021, she was awarded a competitive Rotary Peace Fellowship at the Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda. The focus of her fellowship initiative was transforming conflict-based sexual violence through art-based inquiry, differentiation, and storytelling with women in extreme poverty. In response to her work with at-risk women and girls in Africa, she partnered with 3 Ugandan professional women to form Magenta Girls Initiative, an international NGO mobilizing community support for girls' education and empowerment. MGI is dedicated to lifting vulnerable women and girls in Africa out of generational poverty through psychological support, education, and vocational skills training. Jennifer currently serves as President and CEO. She's also Rotary Positive Peace Activated for the North America and Caribbean cohort. I had the opportunity to meet her 2 years ago, and I discovered not only a wonderful professional, but also a great woman. So it's a pleasure for our club to have you as a speaker. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Maria Julia, for the very kind introduction. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to this group. I've heard of your club and really am excited to meet some of you and share a little bit about my work. Bassi, I am going to be sharing slides. Can you, yes. Is that possible? Okay.
So I'll stop sharing now.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Okay, here. Okay, I think we're good. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story on how I got involved in this through my Rotary Peace Fellowship. As Maria Julia mentioned, I was a Rotary Peace Fellow at Makerere University in Uganda. I was part of the 2nd cohort. So I was a Peace Fellow early on with the new Peace Center in Uganda, which was very exciting. I also have a background in anti-human trafficking work in the United States and Africa. This photo on the left is the main building at Makerere, which you can see is very beautiful. This is a picture of our cohort 2. We had a very diverse group of individuals. I think there were 3 Americans, 2 Europeans, and the rest were from various African countries. We had 17 fellows from 11 countries, which was really interesting. And we all shared our cultures and our background with each other. And it was a wonderful experience for me. While I was a fellow at Makerere, we did several field work trips to different places, both in Uganda. We also went to Rwanda, where I had been working previously as a community peace builder with a priest there, doing trauma-informed peace building with vulnerable communities in the post-genocide environment. So that was interesting to go back to Rwanda. But this particular place in Uganda is called Mengo Kisenyi. It's an informal settlement. And when our fellow group visited this area, the situation really gripped me. It was really dire. I'm sure many of you have visited in your travels informal settlements around the world, and this particular one really caught my attention for many reasons. It's an urban settlement right in the heart of the city. Kampala is a city of 12 million people in a country of 48 million. So it's a very densely packed area. This particular urban settlement had more than 200,000 residents, many refugees from neighboring countries who were fleeing conflict in their home countries. As in most informal settlements, the poverty was immense, the oppression, the poor sanitation, lack of any kind of infrastructure. But what I really tuned into was the rampant sexual violence, the coercion, all of those things that I learned when I met some of the residents there. And with my professional background, that is what I was laser focused on. This group of women who I met on our field work there were just amazing women. They told the story of their lives, what their daily life was like. Many of them did not have any kind of education. They dropped out of school early. Many of them became pregnant as teenagers. At that point, their parents stopped paying their school fees. They had several children, most of them conceived through rape and forced sexual encounter. They told me that they had no safety during the day. At night, many of them were working in the brothel in this community. And when they told me that during the day, when they were idle in their community, men would show up on bodas, which are motorcycles, and would force themselves upon them, force them into sexual encounters. And this, made me just really angry that people were showing up and felt entitled to these women. And they were upset about the example that this was setting for their children. They didn't feel like they had any safety. So as a Peace Fellow, we all have to have a project, a social change initiative. So I was starting to formulate what my project would be when I met these women. Some other things in this informal settlement community that I noticed listening to the residents were that there was a shadow pandemic during COVID of teen pregnancy, with just an explosion of girls and young women in this community becoming pregnant. This was true across the entire country of Uganda. Uganda had the longest school closure of any country in the world. It was a full 2 years where their schools were completely shut. And I heard the stories of trafficking related experiences, forced marriage, all kinds of things. And I also looked at the statistics and found out that more than a third of women in this country were illiterate. So there was an enormous gender gap in Uganda. As I mentioned, as a Peace Fellow, we put together a social change initiative. So as an artist, also myself, I always incorporate art into the work I do in the anti-trafficking field. So the first thing I did after visiting these women and their community was I created a piece of artwork, which you can see here on this slide. I always travel with a portable watercolor set. And I really was trying to capture the mindset of what I was hearing from these women, that we all, as survivors, I am also a survivor of sexual violence, not of human trafficking, but of sexual violence. And I know personally that our days our recovery is a lifetime journey. And so this particular painting really shows kind of the darkness and the light that we all experience as survivors of sexual violence. So the first thing I did was I wanted to identify the key drivers of gender-based violence in this very high-risk community. Then I would like to establish a connection with these women. How can we connect and create solidarity in our experiences? And then, of course, my goal was to determine some solutions to these women's challenges. And I collected data. And one of them was a survey for these women, asking them some very key questions about their lives. Some of them are really important. Have you exchanged sex for money, food, or something else in my work as an anti-trafficking professional, you know, we often look at that as a defining piece of what is trafficking, somebody who has to exchange something for sex. You can see that many of these women also do not have a safe place to sleep at night. I heard stories of these women leaning up against trees in this community until they fell asleep with their children because they had no shelter. They didn't even have a structure to sleep safely at night. So for my social change initiative, I conducted a 4-day workshop in this community with these women, where we created artwork that we then took into the communities to start conversations about trafficking and about gender-based violence. And it was powerful. I think many of these women had never really connected with their own bodies. That was an important part of the work we did. I led some conversations and some exercises on breath work, mindfulness, recovery, because to me that was key in getting these women in a mindset where they could then think about their futures and what they wanted to do with their lives. We also talked a lot about trauma, and this was one of the women whose story is featured in the work that we currently do at Magenta Girls Initiative, and you will see her again later in my presentation. So after this experience, after I graduated at Makerere in 2022, I decided I needed to not just develop this research and find solutions. I needed to act. As a Rotary Peace Fellow, we're people of action, right? So I decided to partner with one of my Peace Fellow colleagues, Goreti Komarembe, who you see here from Uganda. She was in my cohort. And we formed this international NGO to solve these problems for these vulnerable women. We also partnered with 2 local Rotarians who have PhDs in gender mainstreaming and education. So we are a Rotary-led organization working on issues and partnering with other Rotarians in this area. I want to show you a brief video that will tell you more about our work.
In the heart of Uganda, a country known for its rich culture and beautiful landscape, a difficult reality faces many girls and young women. With a population of more than 48 million people and the world's second youngest population, Uganda is a nation of incredible potential. Yet, poverty, conflict, incomplete education, and limited economic opportunities cast a long shadow. And often, it is the women who shoulder the heaviest burden. More than 1/3 of Ugandan women are illiterate, and many young girls face the burden of caretaking for siblings, fetching water, and contributing to the household income from a very young age. During the COVID-19 pandemic, schools were closed in Uganda for 2 full years, leaving many young girls and boys idle, which caused a shadow pandemic of rape and teenage pregnancy. Many girls who became pregnant will never get the opportunity to complete their education. Magenta Girls Initiative began during the COVID-19 pandemic as a beacon of hope. We are a women-led organization created to educate, mentor, and give psychosocial support to at-risk girls and young women in Uganda. Many of the beneficiaries we serve are victims of sexual and domestic violence, often enduring unspeakable acts of oppression, leaving them without their dignity and without a voice. MGI creates a safe and supportive space in high-poverty communities, not only to learn, but to raise awareness about gender-based violence, sexual exploitation, human trafficking, and child marriage. By providing trauma-informed programming, we give girls and women the confidence and motivation to stay in school or acquire vocational skills training. These conversations don't just educate, they build futures and create economic opportunities for girls and women to break the cycle of generational poverty. The situations in these communities are dire, but there is still hope. Hope in the resilience of these young women, and hope in the transformative power of education, art, and community connection. Your support is critical for us to achieve lasting impact. Every dollar helps provide education, psychosocial support, and economic opportunities for women and girls in need. Our vision is a world where every girl can achieve her fullest potential and contribute to all aspects of life. Together, we can create a brighter and safer future for Uganda's girls and women. Donate today and be a part of this life-changing movement. Learn more at magentagirlsinitiative.org.
So as you can see, we do a lot of work. All of that footage was original. I actually was able to take a Rotary photographer with me last March to capture some of the work that we were doing and meet our women. So our latest project has been a Rotary Global Grant. We were talking earlier here, I heard you all talking about grants, the different types of grants. The first thing that Magenta Girls Initiative did was we partnered with my host Rotary Club in Kampala on a Rotary Global Grant to help these women become skilled and protect their children by scholarshiping them for 1 year of education. Some of the objectives of this particular Rotary Global Grant were to educate the community on the dangers of gender-based violence and trafficking, to create a crisis response in this high-risk community through the establishment of a crisis center, and then to train 70 of these women in various vocational skills training, financial literacy, urban farming to help them with food insecurity, to promote self-sufficiency. We launched this grant project in November of 2023. We are currently wrapping up this project now. The goal of the project is to break the cycle of generational poverty through empowering these women to work outside of commercial and coercive sex in a supportive and safe environment for themselves and their children. Basically, to keep the women out of here. This is a photo of the brothel room that I took when I was a Peace Fellow in 2021 when we toured the area. On the left, the photo is of the track area where the men wait to try to get into these rooms with the women. And as we learned from my research during my fellowship, we know that many of these women are involved in this kind of thing and truly don't want to be. I mentioned the Crisis Center. This was established through this Rotary Global Grant. However, now that our grant funding has finished for the Crisis Center, Magenta Girls Initiative has taken over operations of the Crisis Center. Why? Because there was so much need of these women. We have 25 to 30 women streaming through this Crisis Center every single day in this community. I just returned from Uganda last month and spent several days. This is a photo of me meeting with one girl, 16-year-old girl who was pregnant and needed assistance with her delivery in the local hospital. I actually was there long enough to go back into the community and visit her and her newborn in her home and provide support for her and her family. This is the woman, Veronica, that I showed you in one of my slides when I was talking about trauma. And you can see the photo on the left where she was in 2021. That young boy in the second photo was tied around her waist at that time. Veronica's HIV positive, and she was just very worried and concerned about her newborn baby also testing positive. She is what we call our rock star in this program. We put her through the vocational skills training. She has become an active and successful seamstress in this community. The photos on the right, you can just see her beaming face and her transformation through this particular program that we put together from the first global grant that we've been working on. These women have become entrepreneurs in this community. They have respect from other residents now. They have confidence, and they have healing from their trauma through a lot of the psychosocial support and work that we've done with them. But you can see the smiles on their faces, and the picture on the right is when we were giving them their capital at the end of this project after they graduated from the 6-month skilling course. So global grants are something that Magenta Girls Initiative works on with local Rotary clubs in Uganda. We have a second Rotary Global Grant project that is partnering with a different club there in the Kampala area. we will be doing the training and education, outreach and education on trafficking and gender-based violence prevention. That project is funded and is set to begin in August. We have another project that we're working on with a different club that is a menstrual hygiene project where we have 2 different locations where we'll be training some of our seamstresses from this first project that I've shared with you. Will be training other women and girls in local villages to sew and create their own products, and that will help keep the girls in school in those villages. So at the end of the day, as the video said, you know, our vision is really a world where every girl can achieve her fullest potential and contribute to all aspects of life. Menstrual hygiene is certainly one of those building blocks to allow girls to stay in school. Skilling young women and girls whose education has been interrupted is also another strategy that MGI uses in the work that we do. So with that, I will conclude my presentation and I will be open for any questions you all might have if there is time left. Please, I hope some of you have questions for what we do. We also are looking at projects in other countries, both in Africa and in the Caribbean right now. So I see an expansion in the future if any of you have questions about locations that you're in and potential collaborations. Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet you all and to address your club. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
A great presentation, Jennifer. Yeah, I have a question. So about the village that you showed that had the 200,000 residents, is there no police presence, no security? Is this just, this is what it is and we allow it?
Great question. In most of those communities, that is the case. There is a police presence. However, what I learned, and it's just incredibly disturbing to me, is that in order to file a police report, if it's rape or any kind of sexual violence, you have to pay the police to come. You have to pay their transport for them to show up and take the report, which, as all of you know, is an incredible obstacle for especially low-income communities. These women don't even have enough money to feed their children. So many of them never end up making that report. That's why we thought it was so important to continue funding that crisis center, because that's what we do. We can help these women make police reports, but we also want to train law enforcement. And that is my next goal, is to partner with another international NGO. Many of them are working in the country of Uganda. The Human Trafficking Institute is the one that I have some very specific contacts with. We want to partner as a smaller NGO with them to provide training for local law enforcement on best practices. I see other questions. Karen?
Yeah, Jennifer, one of the things you talked about creating menstrual pads for young women. One of the things, and you talked about the prevention and bringing in boys, and I think that's also really important, is to engage, you know, from the prevention standpoint, engaging young men to understand their impact. You know, I think talking about my daughter had been with Peace Corps, and one of the things that she worked with a youth center, and she actually had some of the young men sewing menstrual pads for their sisters. Nice. And it was twofold. One of them was to kind of talk to them about engaging their involvement, but also helped them, you know, with menstrual pads, was also keeping young women out of school. As you know, was once they started their period, they stopped going to school, and they helped the brothers engage and understand how important getting their sisters to continue going to school was. So that might be an idea as well. So for you,
I like that approach.
Yeah. So
thanks for sharing.
Food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I think engaging, what I found in my work with the Attorney General's office was we have to engage men in the conversation about ending human trafficking, based on the whole issue of demand, which we don't have time to go into today, but that was something that I really focused on with my educational work in the United States, was the anti-demand strategy, partnering with some amazing global anti-trafficking organizations. Maria Julia, do you have a question for me?
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Jennifer. I want to share with you and with the members of the club the importance of art when we do with the work with gender-based violence and victims and survivors. I have been working on this topic for more than 25 years, but I recognize the importance of art last year when I developed the seed funding project. The seed funding project I mentioned for the members of our club was a project funded by Rotary International and the Institute of Economics and Peace. And I could see the different attitude of women when they went to the Gooden workshop. They learned to use the good. So it's extremely important when they assisted to the other meetings in a certain way. I felt that they didn't feel comfortable, but when they went to the art workshop, their attitude were completely different. So can you explain your work with art, because you have a great experience with it? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for raising that. You know, as an artist myself, I've used art in many ways to personally heal from my own experience with sexual violence in childhood. And that is something that I have always been very comfortable sharing with others. You know, it's a coping strategy, so it can be very helpful in the recovery for victims of trafficking and sexual violence, but it can also start conversations in the community about the trafficking and sexual violence experience. And that is how I used it in my social change initiative with this group of women. First, you know, we worked through some of the issues. We told our stories to each other. We created that solidarity. And it wasn't just visual art, it was also music. And when I heard earlier someone say that you have a member who's very interested in learning how he can use his music experience, so amazing. Singing songs, telling stories. In Africa, it's also very common to do drama, to do short skits and plays where you educate the community. So I think it's so important to look at alternative ways to both express and heal trauma, but also to educate others on the experience of victims. Because if you haven't experienced this or you're not familiar with this, sometimes looking at a piece of artwork can educate you and it can hit you. It can land in a way that's more powerful than just words. And sometimes victims really can't use words to express their experiences. And I have a traveling exhibit that I did for my master's degree program in art education years ago that is called Her Bruise. And it's a series of watercolors that show different types of images that resemble bruises. And I link that to domestic violence and trafficking. And I've taken that to several conferences and other places and spoken on the issue of trafficking and how art can be a powerful metaphor and connector there. Anyone else have questions for me? I thought I maybe saw one in the chat. I wanted to mention also that I will be in Calgary too. So I can't hear if someone's talking. I will also be in Calgary. So if any of you are there, I would love to connect with you and learn more about your interests and your work in the anti-trafficking space for sure.
Okay, my email's in the chat, but I'll put it again so it's easier to find. I'm gonna be there.
Okay.
Yes. Hey, Jennifer, I just sent you a direct text with my contact information. We do a lot of training with law enforcement. So we just did some training, anti-trafficking training in Kenya with one of the groups that I'm a board member of. So take a look at that. Maybe maybe we can do, and we got connections in Uganda too from some of our old friends. So yeah, interesting.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's really helpful.
Love the power of Rotary.
Sorry, I can't find the hands up sign, but can I just ask Jennifer a question? I've actually visited this place in Kampala.
Oh, have you?
Because my son worked there during I suppose it was the late 90s, early noughties, teaching medicine. I just wondered if you'd done any work with IJM out there, because great, because they're particularly good, I believe, at exhorting local police forces to behave responsibly.
Yes.
Great, good.
Yes, IJM is a great organization. I worked with them when I was in the Attorney General space on human trafficking, and they've got some great folks who are really committed, and that's a good suggestion for sure. Thank you. That's amazing that you visited that particular area. Of Kampala, so you know full well what I'm talking about. And there's so many other informal settlements there and in other countries that are facing the same types of challenges. And part of our plan for this first global grant was to create a model program to scale to other types of high-risk, low-income communities where women are being exploited in this way. So my hope is that we can take this and grow it and share it with other communities as well, because it seems to be a formula that's successful. First, you work with the women individually on healing their trauma. You get them, their mindset to a place where they can be receptive to vocational skills training, where they're committed to that mindset change and that change in behavior and lifestyle and all those things, where they see hope for a better future while also helping their children so they can focus on their studies. You have to put all those pieces into the puzzle to make it really successful. And then after they graduate, you have to support them temporarily by helping them with capital to start their businesses. And then you watch them become successful. You watch them start earning their own money where they can feed their children and they can pay for the school fees. And that's where we hope to be in another 6 to 12 months with these women. Right now, we just gave them their capital a month or two ago. So they're just getting their businesses started, and we're doing the monitoring and evaluation on how they will grow and become successful, and hopefully be able to keep those kids in school and prevent that next generation of poverty like they experienced. So it is a long game, but we have to invest in these women. They're motivated and they're amazing people.
No, Jennifer, it's too bad you can't do another Global Peace Fellow, because you talked about in your video about Uganda being the youngest, one of the youngest populations. And part of the reason for that is because of the decimation of the population from Joseph Kony in the Civil War.
Right, in northern Uganda, right.
In northern Uganda. And so it'd be interesting to do that sort of a study, and I'm sure there's studies being done about that generational sort of trauma of the first generation from the war, and then to layer on that the generational, the impact of the sort of the sexual trauma from, the impact on what that does to the sexual abuse from that second generation of how men treat women now, from that next generation. That'd be a fascinating sort of study.
That almost sounds like a wonderful PhD dissertation, and
doesn't it?
Yes, or Fulbright,
Yeah, exactly.
About that. The University
there you go.
Peace Center director has, talked to me about those things, but boy, it's a competitive thing in a long process. But that's very interesting. I agree. That would be good to know more about.
There you go. I'm too old, so
that's how I feel too.
I'm handing it to some bright young person. Bassy, go find one of your colleagues. So
Thank you so much, Karen. Yes. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for this awesome, amazing presentation. We're entirely happy and grateful to have you today. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thank you so much.